Welcome to Faith and Freedom. For the next few minutes, we hope to inform, inspire, and encourage you as we discuss legal victories and challenges to your fundamental freedom and religious liberties. Faith and Freedom comes to you from Liberty Counsel, a civil liberties education and legal defense organization. Join us now as Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel, explains the latest legal issues all across this country. In the courtrooms of America, Liberty Counsel is winning the battle for your constitutional freedom.
Liberty Counsel has hired Rivka Kidron, the former special advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to be a part of our Liberty Ambassador Council program. I am Matt Staver, founder and chairman of Liberty Counsel. The Liberty Ambassador Council program is designed to bring people to Israel to strengthen their Christian faith and to equip them to become ambassadors for Israel. Joining me is Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, to talk about the Liberty Ambassador Council program and the importance that the United States stand with Israel and that Christians stand with Israel and the Jewish people at this critical time of world history.
Well, first of all, it's hard to overstate how humbling and exciting it is to have such a close relationship for Liberty Counsel and Liberty University School of Law to be so closely tied to Benjamin Netanyahu and to Israel in such a way. And what an opportunity for our students and for our ambassadors to go over, see the sites, but see behind closed doors, see things that other people normally don't get to see, and hear from speakers about the Holy Land and about the politics of Israel as well in one trip. It's just an amazing thing.
Really is amazing. The Liberty Ambassador Council program, we launched it for the very first time in September of 2011. I visited Israel in June of 2011, had a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in his office of the Prime Minister. Rivka Kidron was the individual who was the special advisor 2 doors down from the Prime Minister, and she's the one who made all those arrangements happen. And it was during that meeting we talked about the Ambassador Council program and the importance of Christians standing with Israel and the relationship between our history and our heritage and our faith, between Christians and Jews and Israel and the United States. We share common values, and because of those common values, we share common threats where the world doesn't like those values. And whether it's in the Middle East or whether it's attacks here in the United States, people are trying to undermine those values. And I think going on this trip, and we are in Israel as we speak with a group of people from around the country as part of our Liberty Ambassador Council program, visiting the biblical sites and the historical sites and meeting with leaders from all levels of Israel's government, academia, business, military, and other areas. It's literally a life-changing experience. You can't go on this trip without having your life changed and come away being a goodwill ambassador for Israel.
Well, as Christians, Scripture says essentially that those who bless Israel, God will bless, and those who curse Israel, God will curse. And I think Israel is looking for friends right now. They've been isolated to a large extent from many governments across the world. Unfortunately, sadly, regrettably, right now we have a presidential administration that is hostile to Israel at an unprecedented level. Perhaps Jimmy Carter to a degree in his administration, but this Obama administration is siding with the enemies of Israel publicly, and certainly as evidence comes forward, we see that the policy steps that he is taking are not favorable to Israel, and it's frightening, but frankly, the reality is that we as Christians have to step up and be the ambassadors to Israel, be friends of Israel, and it's biblical to do so.
Well, you had actually, even with the so-called Arab Spring, you had Democrats and Republicans that were supporting, including President Obama, the so-called Arab Spring, the uprising in Egypt and Libya and some of these other countries. And what ultimately happened was, for people who were in tune with what's going on, people in Israel and people in the United States that understand the political dynamics and the impact of Islam in the Middle East, they were concerned about this because ultimately you overthrow Hosni Mubarak and you get the Muslim Brotherhood. You overthrow Libya and you get Benghazi, the terrorist attack on our embassy over there, and some of these other places as well. You begin to overthrow these governments. And the same thing, we're looking at with Syria. The Syrian leader is not a very good individual, but you overthrow that, and what are you going to get out of it? You're going to get the influence from Iran. So, this is a very politically sensitive situation. And John McCain and the president and others came out and they were all supportive of this so-called Arab Spring. It's now turned into the Arab Winter, and it's not good for Israel, and it's certainly not good for the rest of the country, and certainly not for the United States.
Yeah, it's disastrous. And then we see with President Obama at one point saying that Israel needs to step back to the pre-1967 borders there, give up land that they have acquired in a defensive way after being attacked. They're not imperialists. They're not occupying quote Palestine, which still doesn't exist, despite the fact that the United Nations had decided to recognize Palestine. Well, no, that's still Israeli territory. But the reality is that this president, I think, the United States of America needs to get back to that position where we stand with Israel, which is we are the shining city on a hill in the United States. Well, Islamist nations call us the Great Satan. They call Israel, which is also a beacon of light and a democracy in that region, they call it the Little Satan. Well, there's a natural connection between the United States and Israel, and we are trying to at least solidify and maintain that strong connection.
Well, and one of the things that happens when you go on this program, Liberty Ambassador Council is one of our programs, and we have a special website called ambassadorcouncil.org, ambassadorcouncil.org. And if you have an interest sometime in going to Israel, communicate with us. You can go to Liberty Council's website, lc.org, and let us know, and we'll let you know when the next tour is in Israel. We have a VIP tour, which takes people to all of the biblical sites. What you see behind us right now is a view on the very first day when we come to Jerusalem. In the morning of that day, we all assemble here and you look over the holy city. This is what you're seeing behind us, which is that holy city. It's amazing when you actually are there and you begin to see all these different places that you read about in Scripture, places where Jesus would be, places where the apostles would be. Then we walk down through the Garden of Gethsemane, all the way down through this olive garden. And amazingly, olive trees are there that are 2,000 years old. I mean, these are some of the oldest olive trees in the world. Some of these olive trees literally go back to the time of Christ. Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable to actually walk in that Garden of Gethsemane where Jesus would have prayed with his disciples on the eve of his crucifixion and resurrection. So it's an amazing experience. You simply cannot replicate that any other way but go into Israel. We go to Caiaphas' house where Jesus was ultimately taken. And in fact, the very first time I ever visited Israel, there is a rooster that is there on the house. It's a symbol of a rooster because that's where the rooster crowed, and Jesus was denied by Peter. And while I was there the very first time, a real rooster did crow because there's people that live around there that had chickens, and the rooster actually crowed. It's an amazing experience. We go down to the very place in the city that goes back to the very first century where Jesus literally would have been kept before he was ultimately taken to the cross. So it's a life-changing experience that you just simply can't replicate. And not only is it something that strengthens your Christian faith, for me it puts everything in perspective. And then you come away understanding and appreciating our history, our heritage, our relationship with Israel and the Jewish people. And you can't help but become a goodwill ambassador for Israel. Yeah,
it gives you goosebumps. And to have Rivka Kidron now working with Liberty Council and to have that connection to Benjamin Netanyahu, and it's humbling beyond words. It's exciting, and it's a chance of a lifetime. For if you're interested in joining Liberty Council, it's a chance of a lifetime. Matt, what's the best? Well,
you can go to ambassadorcouncil.org. That's ambassadorcouncil.org. That's one of our websites, or lc.org, and you can always call us at our toll-free number, 800-671-1776, to inquire about our next upcoming trip to Israel and information on how you can get involved. Make some plans now. We'll keep you in the loop and let you know about the next trip to Israel. Rivka Kidron, though, is, up until a few weeks ago, was the special advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And as I said, I met her through meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu, and her passion to develop relationships between Israel and the United States, Christians and Jews, matched our vision And so she is now working with us in Israel, has all kinds of contacts. The experiences that you'll have through this Liberty Ambassador Council VIP tour is just simply life-changing and unique, one of a kind. Go to Liberty Council's website, lc.org. Remember Liberty Council in your prayers. Remember us while we are in Israel as we speak. And also remember to support Liberty Council with your financial support. You can do that by going to the website, lc.org.
You have been listening to Faith and Freedom with Liberty Counsel. We hope that we have motivated you to stand up for your faith, family, and freedom. We can accomplish a lot when we work together. Get informed and get involved today. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter, The Liberator. We will send it out to you free of charge. Stay informed with our Liberty Alert email updates. Just click on the website at www.lc.org or call us at 1-800-671-1776. Tune in next time to learn more about your rights right here on Faith and Freedom.